Hi, I'm Mitch, and welcome to the Restoration Road. Today I have my second of four daughters with me, Kelsey Kruse, and she is completing her undergrad work at Huntington University, where she plays volleyball, majors in broadcasting and minors in psychology. And she's at a precipice in her life where she's asking herself, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? So I've asked her to join us today to look at a strategic plan for her life. I owe a lot of debt to my business professor from Indiana University, Dr. Ed Leonard, for giving me the template of what I'm going to share with her today. And I would hope that you would do the same thing, that you'd think about what is your vision for life, what is your mission, what are your values, and that you would apply what we're going to talk through today, trying to model for you what we want you to do as well, and that you would just take those steps to see what God has in store for your life as you try to develop a strategic plan. Kelsey, thank you so much for being here today, my second baby girl.
Thank you for having me.
When I was about 17, my dad said, you know, you're a dreamer. I think there was something inside me that was a planner. And he said, but we need to move you from a dreamer to a doer. And he said, to do that, you need to make a list of what you're going to accomplish every day, and then you need to do it. You probably like that a lot, don't you?
I love planning. When people talk about it, my eyes light up because anybody who knows me knows I love to plan. And I have a to-do list for every day. But on every day's to-do list, one of the things I need to do is make tomorrow's to-do list. And I genuinely enjoy that time, maybe a little bit too much, but I love it.
Well, my dad had one of the most successful businessmen in America at that time. My dad asked him, what is the secret to your success? And he said, every day I make an appointment with myself. And he had a way he would fold the piece of paper, and he had 6 things. He said, if I accomplish 6 things that I want to accomplish, then it's been a very successful day. Too often we just let the incoming window in the office of our lives determine what we're going to do that day. But planning's huge. When I was about 17 years old, my dad sat me down and he told me all that, but he gave me a book that he wanted me to read on a family vacation. And it was Zig Ziglar's See You at the Top. And Zig Ziglar had a line in there that you've probably heard me say a lot of times. And I think it transformed my perspective. But it was, failing to plan is planning to fail. I'm going to walk you through a personal strategic plan, and we're going to start with a vision. A vision is a picture of the future, and so from a personal standpoint, it would be, who am I trying to become? Mm-hmm. Have you thought about having a vision, a picture of the future for your life? Who am I trying to become?
Well, when I was planning for this episode, when I got to that part, I found myself asking the question, what would I want people to say at my funeral someday?
Whoa!
You know, what are some qualities that I would want them to, first of all, think of when they thought of Kelsey Kruse's life? And a few things came to my mind right away. One was, first and foremost, being the light of Christ. That's my number one priority, my number one passion, and I want people, you know, to see that I've been created in His image. I believe that one of the best compliments I could ever receive from somebody would for someone to say, you know, when I look at you, I see Christ's light. So I think that's the number one most important thing. Also, I want to be known as a joyful, positive person. I want to be known for building people up and never tearing them down. And then one of the other things I thought of, this isn't a part of who I am yet, but I want to be known for being an incredible wife and mother. And even though that's not a part of my life yet, I think it's been something that I've been thinking about for years. And I know that at the end of the day, that a huge part, I think, of my identity is going to be found in that. And then when it comes to my career, whatever I end up doing, which that's going to be a part of this planning, but I want people to think that I worked hard and that I was reliable and that I was good at whatever I ended up doing. So those are some of the things that came to my mind right away.
So we're going to have a picture. It's very important. Organizations need to know this. Individuals need to know this, that a vision is a picture. Picture. In 2 Corinthians 4, it talks about how the glory of God shines in the face of Jesus Christ, and that we're these clay pots, and His light shines through us. So maybe it's a picture of light shining through that clay pot. You're not a crackpot, but maybe that's what it is. So I like the words you use, but you want to develop a picture out of that light shining through a clay vessel, perhaps. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I love what you said there. That's really powerful. So a vision is the picture of our future. Some would say how it can and must be. Next is the mission, and the mission is, what do I do to reach my vision? Whereas a vision is a picture, a mission statement, and what I'm going to do to reach that vision needs to be something that fits on a T-shirt or a coffee mug.
Okay.
If it's bigger than that, and we can start big and narrow it down, wordsmith it down, but if it's bigger than that, it's probably not going to get transferred in your life. Mm-hmm. For example, I think my vision is to connect the vertical with the horizontal. It's a picture of our culture connecting with Christ. Mm-hmm. In order to do that, I teach the Bible through stories of restoration. So, what do you do to reach your vision? What's your mission statement?
Well, if I were asked what my mission statement was, or if even somebody said, pick one word, to be your mission statement for your life, two come to mind that I would really battle between choosing. One would be love. I think that love is the greatest gift that God has ever given us. I think He's the definition of love. And then on a lighter note, anybody who knows me knows I love love. I love love stories. And, part of what I want to do with my future is get my master's in counseling, because I would love to do relationship counseling. So, in a lot of ways, love plays a role in my life, and I think that that's something I want to do for other people. When they encounter me, I want them to feel like they've been loved on. The second word I think of is impact. For a long time, I feel like having an impact has been a desire of mine. Playing 3 sports in high school and then playing college volleyball with my teammates, one of my main goals has always been, when I leave here, I want to leave an impact, and an eternal impact. Because I can't play those sports forever, but the relationships I have, those can last forever. And, the eternal impact I may leave, that can last forever. And so I think love and impact are 2 words that come to my mind right away.
Okay, we're going to work on that. When your Uncle Stewie was at a crossroads, kind of trying to decide what he was going to do with his life, he felt this call to ministry, and we were trying to figure out, could that happen in our business? And I contacted, through a friend of mine, Ralph Mattson, who's an author, has developed his own personality test, and he runs us through a battery of tests ahead of time, and then he comes in and he counsels with us for about a half day. And he was magnificent, but I will never forget what he did. Impact was an important value to Stewie, your uncle, who's now a pastor. And he gave us each an image of what we were about. He started talking to Stuart, and he says, "This is you."
I don't even know what that means, but it's funny.
It is. When we all got together, we said, what was his gesture for you, And Stuart shows us that. And he said, I want to have a significant impact in someone's life. I want to have a lasting impact. A word I like for that is indelible. An indelible image means it stays. For your grandpa Dean, it was this. Dad stays away from people, especially in a work environment, until he can't take it anymore. And then he gets involved, and then he goes away again. Then he gets involved, and then he goes away again. And that's the way he wants to do it. With me, he came in my office, Ralph Mattson, he starts going down this, the results of my tests. And I said, Ralph, I really said this to the guy that wrote the book. I said, Ralph, you got my dad's. I said, that's all about controlling. I don't want to be controlled, but I don't have to control everything. And he said, and I'm thinking he's going to switch and say, oh my goodness, and he's going to go to another file folder. And he goes, oh, no. You do it with finesse. And I go, that's me, please proceed.
You're like, okay, wait, no, I like it now. Continue.
Oh my goodness, it was hilarious.
So this is your hand gesture?
So when I think about, yeah, this is me. And so when I think about what you said, I can't help but think about that impact for your mission statement. So yours is probably making an impact through love, communicating to connect. There's something like that you can do, and you could wordsmith that out because you are going to teach in some fashion, whether you're on the air and television, whether you're on the radio, whether you write, whether you're in a classroom, whether you're in front of an audience, you're going to communicate to connect. Kind of liking that myself. Do you like that
one too. I might steal it.
I really do. I love it. Well, that's really good. So your vision is a picture of light shining through a clay pot for now.
For now.
And your mission, based on what you said, making impact through love, or we're going to communicate to connect. And that means connect people to God and connect with their hearts. So the values are why do we do it? Mm-hmm. A value connects belief with action. I say I believe these things, but what do I actually do out of those beliefs? Because that'll say what I really, really, truly value. So have you thought about what you value?
Well, I feel like there's a handful of things that I've found that I'm really passionate about. And again, first and foremost, Christ. I believe that that's my number one priority in life and should be. And so everything I do, I want it to be a ministry. And that has to do a lot with how I'm deciding what I want to do with my future as a career. I really want it to be ministry-based. And then also I really value, again, love. I just feel like that's a word that I really admire and want to be a huge part of my life. Along with that, impact, again, one of my main words, but encouragement, I think, is a huge one for me. Whatever I do, I want to encourage people. And I think that our world could benefit from people doing a little bit more of that. And then also within ministry, a little more specifically, women in ministry, and going all the way down to young teenage girls.
That would be your target audience.
Yeah. I feel like that's really a passion of mine, is to reach that target audience. There's probably a lot of other things that I'm not thinking of, but those are like a few of the ones that I think of right away.
Well, a bunch of L words are coming up. Love, you value learning. Mm-hmm. You value leading immensely.
Yeah.
And then you could probably throw in there leaning. So we got your vision, is that light shining through a cracked clay pot. We have the mission, what you do, you're going to communicate to connect. Why you're going to do it, love, loving, leading, leaning, listening, I think. Mm-hmm. So we got a good shot at the values. The next thing we're going to do is objectives, goals, strategies, and we won't do a lot of goals, a lot of strategies, a lot of objectives. We'll talk about what they are, maybe think of one. But it's like a funnel. The objective is bigger. The objective is, where are the steps that lead me to the vision, is just one way I've come up with saying that. Goals are, when do I achieve these steps, because they have to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely. And then strategies, how do I achieve my goals? What systems are going to be in place? So can you think of, where are the steps that lead me to the vision? Are there any objectives that you have currently in your life? Is there some big idea that you think there's a problem you're trying to solve?
Well, I know right away when people say, what do you want to do with your life? Which is a question I'm getting a ton lately as a senior in college. But I usually tell them, I do have a dream job. And right now my major is broadcasting, but I have a minor in psychology because I want to get my master's in counseling. And I always tell people my goal is to combine the two. Then they give me a weird look, and then I say, let me explain. And I tell them that I would love to specialize in marriage and family counseling, and I would love to communicate that on a broadcasting level. So whether that be public speaking, maybe speaking at seminars about relationships and marriages, or whether that be having a television show or speaking about that on the radio. So I would love to combine the broadcasting and psychology into one, and that would be my ultimate dream job.
Well, I really think that world needs that. I mean, you need people that can communicate the counseling, Christ-based counseling, to the masses before there's trouble. They need the tools on how to deal with where they are now before they end up in the deepest valley. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I think it's huge. I can see you writing, teaching, speaking, video, audio. I can see all of that. So that would be an objective that you're going to combine communication with counseling. Whoa, 2 C words.
Oh, man.
So we got goals. When do I achieve these steps? And so they have to have a time element to it. Do you have any goal in your life right now where it's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely? There's a deadline to meet one of those objectives. Is there a next step that you're going to take in your life that you know that's a goal?
Yeah. There's a lot of things that I feel like I kind of have a timeline on, but one of the ones that comes to my mind right away is that I want to, graduate at the end of this school year and then go into grad school. And I'm hoping that that will take, 3 to 4 years is kind of what I'm planning for.
What will?
To get my master's or my doctorate in counseling.
Okay, I better be a doctorate at that time period.
So I'm thinking that'll take about 3 to 4 years if
Dr.
I do that
Kruse.
part-time while I'm working. But as I mentioned, I play volleyball in college, and one of my goals is to get involved with coaching right away. I'm going to be coaching some club volleyball very soon here. But then once I finish school, even while I'm in grad school, I would love to get involved at the high school or college level.
That makes a lot of sense.
I love that.
I love that. I love how it all goes together. We just said the same thing at the same time. I think other goals, like in your life, it's to graduate with your undergrad. It's to enroll. These would be measurable, timely, to have deadlines. Enroll in your grad program, complete your grad program with excellence, graduate, and then do I do a doctorate? And what would that thesis be? I can tell you right now that your doctoral thesis, if you do this, will drive. Let me say it this way, we'll be driven by all of this. You're going to find hot buttons as you research and as you engage, and you're going to say, yeah, I want to fix that problem. That's the problem I'm going to fix. It'll be just awesome how it all ties together. And that'll be the basis for your first book, which will probably be in digital form only. Strategies, how do I plan to achieve my goals? What systems in my life are there so I can achieve my goals? A strategy for you at this current point in your life might be how you approach studying for a particular class in a semester. Mm-hmm. Do you have a class that you can think of, oh yeah, I had to tweak how my strategy of studying for that class?
Yeah, there was one class actually last year that I took where we had to read a book in it. And at the end of the semester, you're going to write a paper on it. So naturally, a lot of people would like to procrastinate that and just read the book at the end. And I've been there and I've done that. But what I told myself in that class was, let's make this a little easier on you, because I'll admit I'm not a huge reader. So I knew I had to make this a little bit easier on myself, because if I waited till the end, I was going to be in big trouble and trying to cram it all in at once. So what I did is I decided, you know what, I'm going to read a few pages every day. So every day on that to-do list was to read, just a handful of pages out of that book. And before I knew it, it was done, and I enjoyed it. And I looked back and thought, that was a really good way for me personally to do that, because I'm not a huge reader.
That's outstanding. I've planned to do that before, and I've never done it that way. I've always done it the first way you described it.
I've only done it once, so.
So we got that light shining through a clay pot, which you might change that picture at some point. You're communicating in order to connect. You got all those words that you value. You've done a really good job on objective goal strategy as a first blush. Next, we want to do a SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Strengths are what are my internal positives. Mm-hmm. Weaknesses are what are my internal negatives. And then opportunities are what are the external positives. And threats would be what are the external negatives. Mm-hmm. So again, we'll just do this as best we can at this point you're on your life. But what are your internal positives? What are your strengths?
I think that, I'll be honest, I struggle with this because I never want to talk myself up. So this is usually something that's really hard for me. But if I had to list some positive things, I would say that I feel like I have good communication skills. I would consider myself a very positive person. And like I said, building people up instead of tearing them down. I think that I am a hard worker at whatever I do, and therefore would be reliable.
Yeah.
I think I really value not only communicating with people, but really relating to them. And I think I'm able to relate with people.
Communicate to connect.
Right. I think I'm able to relate to people well. So those are just some of the things.
Build up comes up a lot with you too. I like that. Weaknesses, internal negatives.
I am overly sensitive.
I am too.
And I am pretty emotional. And along with those two things, it's made conflict something that's really hard for me. So I don't handle conflict very well. I tend to try to stay away from it. It's something I don't like. And so I think that in order for me to be successful someday, I'm going to really have to figure that one out, learning to deal with conflict. But those are just a few of them. I'm sure there's plenty more. I'm a perfectionist, which can have some positive connotations, but it also can make it so I'm really hard on myself or get down on myself easily. So sometimes I think that comes back to bite me.
I was attending a conference, and there's probably 4,800 people in the room, and the speaker he's on a panel, and they're talking back and forth, and he says, and I'm overly sensitive like you, and he says, well, sensitivity really I had to learn was just inverted pride. And I wanted to shout out in front of 4,800 people, no, it's not. Because I didn't think that at all. I have wrestled with that quote ever since I heard it, probably almost 20 years ago. So sensitivity is something that probably is a strength God's given us to connect to other people, but not to be imprisoned by it ourselves. Mm-hmm. So the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities. What are the external positives?
I think Huntington University has been a huge opportunity for me, and
Yes.
I see that as an opportunity for the future. Obviously, I got my undergrad there, so now it's leading to me wanting to get my graduate degree there because they have a program for that.
John Townsend Institute,
Yeah.
the author of Boundaries, sold 5 million copies. It did okay.
So I think Huntington University has provided an opportunity for grad school. Being involved with the volleyball program, I would love to somehow be able to pour back into that someday. So I think there's an opportunity there. And then also just the education I've received, I think, has given me an opportunity. And another thing I thought about is, honestly, I feel like having you as a dad has been an opportunity for me because before I even decided what I wanted to do in college, I watched you do this television program. I watched you do public speaking. I watched you speak on the radio. Watching you do those things, I think, opened my eyes to, hey, I would love to do this. And so I think that was an opportunity that I had to realize that I even love to do this.
That's really good. Are there any external threats?
One of the ones I thought of
A
was...
boy, perhaps?
I don't know about that. Well, I would never view being married as a negative thing, but I think what you do have to think about is it's not just your life anymore. So I can have all these plans for myself, but being married, which is one of my goals, you are bringing your two lives together. So in that sense, you have to plan together. You have to compromise maybe some of the things that you're trying to plan. So I think that's one thing. And then also I think my age can kind of be an external threat. With wanting to do the relationship counseling, one of the concerns I've had is, well, will a couple want to listen to me if I happen to be younger than them?
And that's why I send you all the young people in that field who are teaching and communicating and writing, and people are buying their books and listening to them, so the age doesn't really matter. It's the content.
Right. So that, that's one thing that I've thought through. Is my age going to be a setback? Being younger, I haven't had as many years to have some experience in some of the areas that I might eventually get a career in. So I think in some ways that could be a setback.
That's good. I think we need to work on your vision of what it looks like to be more about what the career looks like for you. I think that would be really helpful. Real quickly, big picture. I came up with this idea when somebody was asking me these questions that, hey, it's add, subtract, multiply, divide. I can always remember that. What's missing? Let's add it. Is there anything missing?
Well, right now I don't have a career and I don't have a husband and kids like I mentioned as part of my goals. So I think those are, some of the things that are part of the big picture that I haven't gotten there yet.
And you don't have a degree?
Right, I don't have that
almost.
degree yet, which is kind of important.
What's not working? Let's subtract it.
That one I really struggle with. I'm trying to think through what's in my life right now that I'm not a fan of.
Art history?
Yeah, that is a solid one. Yes, there are some classes that I have to take that I wouldn't mind subtracting.
Liberal arts college, this just goes with the territory. What's working? Let's multiply it.
An example in my life of something that was working, so I did multiply it, was I was taking Intro to Psychology my freshman year in college, loved it. And therefore, I decided, you know what, I'm going to take some more classes in the psychology field. And then eventually my junior year picked up the minor, and now I want to go on and get my master's. So had I not realized, hey, I really like this psychology stuff, I might not have been making the decision I have to go to graduate school.
Beautiful. What's confusing, finally? Let's divide it.
I think I mentioned at the beginning that I'm someone who loves to have a plan. The downfall of that is I get anxious when I don't feel like I have all of that planned to a T. Being in the position I am as a senior in college, that's become very real to me. And I kind of have that big picture in my mind of where I'd like to end up. But what I'm confused about is those steps to get there, the small steps to get there. What's my first job? And the timeline of all that. Where exactly am I living during all of that? And so I've really had to learn that I need to take it one step at a time. So in a sense, dividing that up, not into just this one big, what am I going to do next year, but just piece by piece, figure it out, and surrender that to Christ. Seek out what that might look like, but ultimately trust Him that He's got it in control.
It's beautiful. Kelsey, I think of a couple things to close with. One is your grandfather had a dinner with Richard Milhous Nixon, who was a two-term president of the United States. And your grandfather was introduced to him as the youngest state senator in the nation, and a little bit of his career. Your grandfather, my dad, was a young man. And President Nixon looked at him and said something. He said, "I'd much rather have your future than my past." And I feel that way about you. I think it's powerful. And then the other thing that goes through my mind is Psalm 127:1, unless the Lord builds the house, the workers labor in vain. And all of this that we've talked about today only works if the Lord is building it. Kelsey, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So would you consider your vision for your life? Who is God calling me to be? Your mission. What is He calling me to do to achieve that picture for my life? And your values. Those treasures that you hold dearly enough that they connect your beliefs with your actions. And that you would begin to develop objectives, goals, strategies. You'd do a SWOT analysis. You'd look at what you need to multiply, divide, what needs to be added, what needs to be subtracted. And you begin to pray to God, hey God, show me the next step. And I think it'll be amazing what He will do with your life, because failing to plan is planning to fail.